Now, as you may know, a presidential aspirant in the African Democratic Congress, or ADC, Professor Kingsley Moghalu, recently resigned from the party, suggesting that there'd been infractions during the ADC's presidential primary in which he came second. On this program yesterday, Monday, Professor Moghalu alleged that there'd been corruption in the process of electing the party's presidential candidate and that there'd been a fundamental clash of values between himself and the leadership of the ADC. Here's a short clip of what he said.
Reasons why I resigned from the ADC, I put it quite clearly in the letter of resignation. And that is this: the party leadership and the candidates had an agreement that the party would provide accommodation and transportation for all the delegates to the convention of the party in Abeokuta. This decision was reached. The chairman put out a circular that said that any party delegate or any party candidate seen, getting involved in vote buying and all those kinds of things would be punished. So we took that decision to avoid monetizing the primary. But the party failed to execute that agreement. So it walked back from what it put on paper. And that left candidates such as myself at a disadvantage because we believed them that the party would take care of everything. And so they didn't. And that created the room for a lot of corrupt practices. And so I said, therefore, for me to remain a member of the party would amount to validating what I consider, and anybody would consider, political corruption.
And that's Professor Kingsley Moghalu there. Now, in political circles and in the course of political competition, there are often different versions of the truth, with smears sometimes made overtly or inadvertently. We in mainstream journalism try to counter this with balance and with facts. And where those facts are not available or empirically verifiable, we do so through an internationally recognized editorial doctrine known as the fairness obligation or the right of reply. And so to this effect, we are giving the right of reply on the program tonight to the presidential candidate of the ADC party, Dumebi Kachikwu, who won the party primary. And he joins me now in the studio. Thank you very much indeed. I know this is a busy day for you. You've got a speech and all the rest of it, but you made out time to talk to us and we appreciate it. Now, as you heard there, Professor Moghalu saying on the program yesterday that he resigned from the ADC, your party, on what he said were grounds of principle after the presidential primaries. You heard a bit of him there alleging corruption in the process. What's your response?
Well, what I heard him clearly say that he had an issue with the party leadership in terms of how they administered the primaries.
Well, he mentioned corruption. He said it opened the way for corrupt practices.
I totally disagree with him when he mentions corruption. And I'll tell you what happened. I approached the party and said to the party that we have about 12 candidates who have unequal financial standings, and that in order to have a primaries process that produced the best candidate, it was important that we all came together and ensured that our delegates got to Abeokuta. We had about 2,000 delegates, and these people are mostly at the bottom of the ladder, right? So I made this proposal to the party in a meeting we all had, all the delegates with the party leadership. They didn't understand. Some people didn't understand. Kingsley was sitting by my side, and I said to him that this is why I am doing this. It's important that we are all on an equal footing. So whoever emerges knows that it's not because he had the most money to move delegates to the convention, but because the delegates preferred this candidate, he's done his work better. So the party agreed with my proposal and said, let's go ahead and do this. I then said, in order to do this, we are 12 candidates. If we all contributed 10 million naira to the party, then the party will have the funds to do this, because our party is not a big party, doesn't have the resources to take 2,000 delegates and house them in Abeokuta. So we said, let's everyone contribute their 10 million naira to this. And it became clear that only about 2 or 3 people will be able to do that. And seeing that this was the situation, we saw that this was not practical, right? There's no way this was going to happen. And just 2 or 3 days to the convention, we realized that our convention was going to fail because the delegates had no means of getting there. So at that point, the party couldn't afford to say, get these people there. Kingsley couldn't afford to take 2,000 people there. I couldn't afford to take 2,000 people there. And the party said, whatever people can do to move delegates there, move these delegates. So Kingsley sent money to most of the states to get his delegates to Abeokuta. He quartered his delegates in the Foursquare Bible Church, their camp there. You know, I moved delegates to Abeokuta, put them in different hotels. The other aspirants did that, who had the resources did that. Now, mind you, in moving delegates to Abeokuta or putting them in hotels, you don't know the mind of the delegates. You're moving them does not mean they are going to vote for you, right? You're just moving them there because you need a certain number of delegates to vote to make the process valid, right? So that's what we did. And
so everybody contributed, basically.
Everyone contributed, yes.
As much as they could.
As much as they could.
And was your contribution bigger than his?
I can't say, because I don't know exactly how much he contributed. But what I made sure I did was that whoever reached out to me and said, we needed, yes.
And do you know how many delegates you sent to Abeokuta?
I can't say, but I will say that.
Well, you must have an idea.
I will
you
say,
obviously spent money on that.
I will say that in terms of the number of states we supported, probably about 12 to 13 states that we supported to get their delegates there. And I knew that the other candidates were doing stuff. So I kept on speaking to candidates like...
But you don't know the number of candidates you sent there.
Yes. So what you do, the state says that we have this budget, 800,000 naira, for example, for our transportation.
So you supplement their budget.
Exactly. So knowing that other people are doing that. And I remember reaching out to candidates like aspirants like Moyan saying, oh, we need to be careful so these guys don't abuse the process. How much are you giving them so that we know, so that these guys are not taking advantage of us? That's what we're doing. So I disagree with Moghalu when he says that the process was corrupt, because we did what we had to do, all of us, all aspirants, to ensure that we had primaries.
But I mean, once you introduced a monetary element into it that was outside the party, in the sense that it was now individuals rather than the party funding the movement of delegates, the potential for corrupt practices would come in, wouldn't it? I mean, because potentially, if you had more money, or if you targeted your money in a particular way, you could reach out to delegates on different levels and say, okay, you've arrived in Abeokuta on the strength of this person, but I can now give you additional money for your feeding, for whatever, for, you know, a little more than you came before with I'm just giving you an example, because this is purely hypothetical. But I'm saying that the potential for that sort of thing is there, isn't it?
So let me correct you on this, right? In a primaries process, that's not what happens with delegates, right? Delegates come there, and a lot of them reach out to aspirants. They don't care that you brought them. They don't care that you've quartered them there. They want to know, how much are you going to pay me for my vote? So
in a sense, so he's not wrong then, so in the sense that corrupt practices were introduced.
So that's what delegates do. So it now depends on you, the aspirants. Do you want to engage in that practice in dealing with delegates? And I will tell you this very, very clearly. It's even on record there. The night before, we had a pre-convention dinner, and I made clear to all the delegates there, I said very, very clearly to them, listen, you know what? If you are here and you believe that I am the right man for this job, vote for me. But tomorrow, I have no money to give to anyone.
So you didn't give anybody any extra money?
Absolutely no.
Right, but you do know that Professor Moghalu is a well-known, well-respected person among many circles in and out of Nigeria. So people are likely to take his allegations very seriously.
People take his allegations very seriously, but guess what? When the same people who take his allegations seriously see that Professor Moghalu was actually the one sending money to delegates on the morning of the convention for their votes, then people discountenance his allegations.
Right. Well, obviously he's not here to defend himself in that respect. So let's be circumspect.
So I'm just telling you.
Right.
I'm just telling you what happened, because you said that people take his allegations seriously. But this is what happened there. My campaign definitely was not engaged in any sharp practices.
Right. Okay.
And the party does not owe it to the delegates to camp them or to bring them there to the convention. We knew that our party was a small party. We knew that the delegates we had were people who were not well off. So we knew we had a problem. And we all did what we knew would work to get those delegates there. But what people did afterwards is what was corrupt. And what bothers me is that...
So what did they do afterwards?
So those people who then tried to induce the delegates... They try to induce delegates to vote for them are the same people who are crying foul. And you have the party chairman who are saying, wait a minute, how dare you say this candidate did this when you know you are the one who did this?
So you ended up winning the most delegates.
I ended up winning, and let me tell you why I believe I won. It was very simple. It was a delegate primaries. I worked on the delegates. I talked to the delegates day and night. I had WhatsApp groups with these people. Some of them I was talking to their wives. These people believed that this was a man who connected with us and our issues. That's what it was about. Tell you what, a lot of the other aspirants met at least 70 to 80% of the delegates on the day of the convention. Whereas I had met most of these delegates prior to the convention in canvassing for their votes.
Right. Now, obviously, Professor Moghalu had a sizable following within the party. I mean, even just looking at the delegate count, you know, if that is accurate, he won at least 500 and something delegates.
Correct, yes.
You got 900 and something, I believe. How disruptive has this quarrel been to the unity of the party? Something you need to go forward into the elections?
I don't think it's affected our party in any way. Typically, what you expect in any process like this is that there'll be a winner and there are also losers, right? People take losing differently. Some people will have a sportsmanlike attitude. Some people will be upset for a period of time. And what you need to do is ensure that the party, you as a candidate who's won, that you try as much as possible to reach out to these people. There are some people, no matter what you do, they will never want to work with you, okay? But you do what is right. You do what is right by your conscience to reach out to these people as much as you can. But as far as I'm concerned, what I have ahead of me is a race that I have to run.
Right, okay, so now that you are presumably the undisputed presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, what are the policies that you aim to take into the campaign season with which you hope to win over the Nigerian people?
It's very simple. I've said this time and time again, right? I'll start by saying this. The next election is not about parties, policies. It's about the Nigerian people. A lot of people believe that President Buhari will be on the ballot because he's failed government, he's failed policies, and what have you. But the Nigerian people who sat and watched for 7 years, right? The Nigerian people who over the decades have watched failed governments come and go and continue to support these people are the people who will be on the ballot because the world will be watching to see how these people now...
So you don't have any policies to
No,
share with
I didn't say that. I'm just trying to say, first of all, that this is what we have to deal with, how the Nigerian people react to the elections and react to the parties, number one. Secondly...
Very briefly, we've got about a minute or so left.
Okay. Secondly, in terms of dealing with the multifaceted issues we have as a country, right? people will typically tell you, what's your hot button issue? And I always say, you know what, we failed in multiple sectors, be it in agriculture, be it in the economy, be it in security, education, healthcare. We failed in all those sectors. What do we need to do at a time like this? We need to have a president who comes with a vision, first of all, to ensure that we have a cohesive country that unites all Nigerians, that brings all our divisions and unites all of us together. Once we get a people under a charter, under the green of our flag, we can start dealing with our issues collectively, getting the right people to man the post, people who can actually get the job done. In the area of security, we can no longer have a situation where we have porous borders, where terrorists can walk into our country, where we don't have radar anywhere, where we don't have, where our security agencies are not well funded, where they are not well tooled, or where we don't have enough manpower there. In terms of the economy, we need to have a situation where we start looking at what matters. You are based in the UK, you understand that every government, the job of every government is to ensure that their citizenry are actually working. They get them back to work. The 40 million unemployed people who are not working today, if they were actually working, and if the average person was contributing 5,000 naira to the economy, right, as taxes, you know that's what will happen. You know what will happen with that? If we had the middle class, that's the engine room of every economy, back to work, who will be wiped out? They will start driving the economic growth of our country. That's not there. You look at the healthcare sector, we find out that our medical personnel are living in droves every day.
Okay.
You can't go into a hospital today and 2 months time you go in there and see.
Well, you're identifying the problems, which everybody knows.
Yes.
What I was keen to get are the solutions, but unfortunately we've run out of time. I want to thank you very much indeed, Demebi Kachikwu, who's the presidential candidate of the ADC party. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.